Welcome to this lesson on negative numbers in real life. On the LANTITE, you will often see questions that involve temperatures dropping below zero or financial situations with debts and credits. Today we will build a clear method for working with negative numbers in these everyday contexts, so you can tackle these questions with confidence. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to interpret negative numbers in temperature and financial contexts, calculate temperature rises and drops, find the difference between positive and negative values, and solve debt and credit problems. Before starting, make sure you are comfortable with basic addition and subtraction of whole numbers. Let's begin by looking at where negative numbers appear in everyday life. Negative numbers are simply numbers less than zero. On a number line, they sit to the left of zero. The further left you go, the smaller the value. So -8 is less than -3, which is less than 0. In real life, we use negatives whenever a quantity drops below some reference point. Temperature goes below 0 degrees Celsius. A bank account can go below 0 if you owe money. Altitude can be negative if you are below sea level. Understanding this concept is the foundation for everything else in this lesson. Before tackling word problems, let's review two essential rules. First, adding a negative number is the same as subtracting. 5 plus -3 equals 5 minus 3, which is 2. Second, subtracting a negative is the same as adding. 5 minus -3 equals 5 plus 3, which is 8. Think of the two minus signs canceling each other out. To find the difference between two values, subtract the smaller from the larger. -4 to 6. That is 6 minus -4, which is 6 plus 4, giving 10. You can also think of it as counting the steps on the number line from one value to the other. Let's work through our first temperature problem. At midday, Canberra was 8 degrees Celsius. By midnight, it dropped by 11 degrees. We start at 8 and subtract 11. 8 minus 11 equals -3. The temperature at midnight was -3 degrees Celsius. The thermometer diagram shows this drop clearly. We start at 8 and move down 11 steps, passing through 0 and ending at -3. Here is a temperature difference problem. The minimum in Hobart was -2 degrees, and the maximum was 14 degrees. To find a range, we subtract the lower value from the higher. 14 minus -2. Remember, subtracting a negative is the same as adding, so 14 plus 2 equals 16. The temperature range was 16 degrees. On the number line, you can see we count 2 steps from -2 up to 0, then 14 more steps from 0 to 14. That is 16 steps altogether. Now let's look at a financial context. Sarah has $45 in her account. She pays a bill of $120. 45 minus 120 equals -75. Her account is now overdrawn. She owes $75. Then, she receives a refund of $30. -75 plus 30 equals -45. Her final balance is -$45. Meaning she is $45 in debt. The chart shows each transaction and how the balance changes step by step. In this problem, we start with a negative temperature and add a rise. At 6 a.m. in the snowy mountains, it was -7 degrees. By 2 p.m. it had risen by 15 degrees. -7 plus 15 equals 8. The temperature at 2 p.m. was 8 degrees Celsius. On the thermometer, you can see the mercury level rising from -7, passing through 0, and stopping at 8. This type of question tests whether you can correctly add a positive number to a negative starting value. This problem combines ordering negative numbers with finding differences. 3 friends have balances of -230, -85, and +$40. For part A, we order them from smallest to largest. -230 is less than -85, which is less than 40. Alex has the lowest balance. He is furthest in debt. For part B, the difference between the highest Carlos at 40 and lowest Alex at -230 is 40 minus -230, which equals 40 plus 230, giving $270. Let's look at 3 common mistakes. First, thinking -3 is bigger than -1. Remember, on a number line, further left means smaller, so -3 is less than -1. Second, forgetting that subtracting a negative is the same as adding. When finding the difference between 5 and -3, you must do 5 minus -3, which is 5 plus 3, equaling 8 not 5 minus 3. Third, confusing the direction of a temperature change. A drop means subtract. A rise means add. Read the question carefully to identify which direction the change goes. This is the type of question you will see on the LANTITE. A table gives you temperatures for 4 cities. First, identify the warmest Sydney at 7 degrees and the coldest Canberra at -4 degrees. Then find the difference. 7 minus -4 equals 7 plus 4, which equals 11 degrees. The key skill here is correctly reading negative values from a table and remembering that subtracting a negative becomes addition. This is a multi-step money problem. The clump starts with $150, spends $320, and receives $95 in fundraising. 150 minus 320 plus 95 equals -75. The account is $75 in debt. To bring it to zero, the 5 members need to cover that $75 shortfall. 75 divided by 5 equals 15. Each member contributes $15. This question combines negative numbers with division, a common LANTITE pattern. Now, pause the video and try these 6 problems. Problem 1 is a simple temperature drop. Problem 2 asks for the difference between a negative and a positive temperature. Problem 3 involves a bank balance going into debt. Problem 4 tests whether you can order negative numbers correctly. Problem 5 is a multi-step temperature change. Problem 6 is a debt repayment question. Check your answers when you're ready. Let's recap. Negative numbers represent values below a reference point, like below 0 degrees or an overdrawn bank balance. Adding a negative is the same as subtracting. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding. To find the difference, subtract the smaller value from the larger. A temperature drop means subtract. A rise means add. For the LANTITE, if you are unsure, sketch a quick number line and count the steps. Always check that the sign of your answer makes sense in context. A temperature that dropped should be lower, and spending more than you have should leave you with a negative balance. Good luck with your practice.